Okay, I'm going to start now. And this presentation will be 12 minutes with 8 minutes Q&A. Thank you very much for your time today. So as I was saying, it's really hard for us to know where we add the most value. And it's something that we struggle with. And even the most talented CEOs, I really like this quotation from Elon Musk. It's so hard to be useful, especially to be useful to a lot of people. So the higher up we get in a hierarchy of an organization at a higher level, it becomes harder and harder for us to know clearly where we are adding the most value. When you're working as the accountant or you're working as an auditor as part of a team, your objective is very clear. And you can apply your technical expertise, and you're being very useful when you're applying your technical expertise. But as you become a CEO and you may have 100, 200, 1,000, 10,000 employees, a large organization with a broad range of resources, then the way that we add value changes. And so we want to know, what should I be doing as a CEO? Does it matter what I do? And fortunately for you and for me, CEO does matter. So a nice study by Baltrinite in Italy, they followed approximately 11,000 directors of companies from company to company. And their conclusion is that the talent of the CEO explains up to 19% of the difference in performance from company to company. So 19% of the performance can be explained by the person who's leading the organization. So CEOs are important. And another interesting study by Bloom looked at CEOs who suddenly died during their term as a CEO. And he found that CEOs who were good CEOs, when they suddenly died, the share price of those companies declined. And when a bad CEO died unexpectedly, the shares of the company rose. So investors, the share price reflecting the understanding of investors do understand how a CEO will add value or destroy value. So CEOs matter, but what should a CEO do? There was a nice study by Bandiera where they monitored over 1,000 CEOs for a period of several weeks, and they took notes. They took note of what the CEO did, how much the CEO spent in meetings, traveling. So they actually recorded and coded what a CEO does, and then they compared it with the performance of the company. And very interesting, they found that CEOs that spent more time with external stakeholders had companies that had a higher level of performance. And CEOs who spent more time with internal operations, their company performance was associated with worse performance. So Bandiera's conclusion is that the CEO is adding more value by exploring external arrangements and partners. But this is quite general. It still doesn't tell us what to do as a CEO. Another body of research is on innovation. And there are a number of studies that find that CEOs who spend more time innovating have better performance than CEOs that spend less time innovating. And three types of innovation are explorative innovation, where you are trying to develop new products, you are trying to enter new markets, you're trying to expand to a new segment of customers. Exploitative innovation, where you are trying to innovate your operations, your processes. And then ambidextrous innovation is where you focus equally, or you focus intensely on both explorative and exploitative. So ambidextrous innovation is where you're doing both explorative and exploitative innovation. Now, these studies are very helpful, but they're limited because the studies on innovation that have identified these types of innovation, they focused on branches of banks. And in the case of Kiss et al. In 2021, they looked at manufacturing firms. So the question is this relevant to all industries? And is it relevant to the perspective of a CEO? Because these innovation studies didn't look at the perspective of a CEO. So that is where our study comes in. We want to know, does CEO innovation influence firm growth? And so innovation from the perspective of the CEO, does it impact the growth of the firm? And how does CEO innovation influence firm growth? What influences CEO innovation or firm innovation from the point of view of the CEO? Does the CEO's tenure or age, is it that older CEOs might innovate less? CEO power. CEO power here means the CEO is both the chairman and the CEO at the same time. We also call this CEO duality. Does that increase innovation? Because a more powerful CEO should be able to make decisions faster and implement innovation better. Education. Does education enhance innovation? We would expect that it would. That education would provide a set of tools, a set of theoretical knowledge to guide and stimulate innovation. So that is our current study. And we're going to, with the data we collect, we're going to draw a conclusion whether or not these variables here on the left, CEO tenure, age, power, MBA education, have any influence on innovation, and whether these three different kinds of innovation affect firm growth. And we are looking at all industries, not just banking or manufacturing, and we're looking from the point of view of a CEO. So we are talking directly to CEOs. Our methodology, we collected the contact information, names, and company data for 14,237 CEOs in Cambodia. How did I get that? I got that through creating Python code, which extracted the entire population of Cambodian company chairperson data from the Ministry of Commerce Entity Search website function. However, this only extracts the data available on the website. There will be older companies that are not available because that data for older companies hasn't been digitized yet. Some of the contact information for the CEOs were found through LinkedIn search for CEOs in Cambodia. We sent the survey through email using a survey software called Qualtrics. And out of 14,237, we got 349 responses. And of the responses, valid responses, only 163. The reason for the change from 349 to 163, three main reasons. First is incomplete. So a lot of the surveys were not completed. A second reason is that we cross-checked each respondent. We found that some of the respondents were not actually the CEO. And then the third reason is that we required, for our study, we require the CEO to be in their position at least 2 years. So there were a number of CEOs that were recently appointed CEO. So we had to remove those responses. So we ended up with 163 valid responses. We conducted a confirmatory factor analysis using a statistical software called Amos 28 to validate the measure of innovation that we use. And we use regression analysis to draw a conclusion whether the variables influence firm performance. And all of our regression and statistical analysis was conducted in SPSS. The respondents, 163 respondents, the average age of the CEOs is 44 years old. They have been in the position as CEO for an average 8 years. And there are a lot of foreigners in this sample, 37% foreign nationality. For the percent that is both CEO and chairman, 68%. The average number of employees, 203. The average annual growth in employees is 24%. For this study, we would have preferred to use a financial measure of performance. However, in Cambodia, financial information for private companies is not available. So we used employee growth, the average growth in employees over the period of the CEO. Of the CEOs, 20% hold an MBA. And there were 14 industries represented, and we compared the industries represented with the Cambodian economic census of industries, and we found that our sample is not representative of the spread of industries in Cambodia as a whole. And our sample was showing a higher number of professional firms and financial services. And I believe that a reason for this is because me personally, I'm well known in the among financial services companies and professional services companies such as audit firms, law firms. And so when a CEO who knows me sees a request for a survey, they're more likely to respond. So I believe that is the source of the industry bias. To help mitigate that bias, we included industry growth for each specific industry as a control variable in our analysis. So because our sample is not representative, we do need to be cautious about generalizing our findings for the population of companies and businesses in Cambodia. Now, the measure we use is innovation. And when we think about innovation, we often think about technology, things like that. But actually, in our study, innovation is a bit more simple. We have 3 innovations measures. The first is explorative innovation. And that is measuring, it's a survey response scored between 1 and 100 to questions such as, we accept demands that go beyond existing products, we invent new products and services, we experiment with new products and services. So explorative innovation is about developing and introducing new products and services. Exploitative is about making improvements to processes and operations. So this is what we mean by innovation. The third type of innovation we call ambidextrous innovation, and that is actually the product of explorative innovation and exploitative innovation. So these 2 innovation scores multiplied give us the ambidextrous innovation. So we did a regression analysis, and before we did while we were doing the regression analysis, we did find that our initial regression violated the regression assumption of not having a heteroscedasticity. So to resolve that, we use a method of regression called robust standard error regression. So we use robust standard errors. What we're looking at here is the results of our statistical analysis. Up here on the top, you see N163. That's the sample size, 163. R squared is 0.324%. What that R squared means, it means that 32% of the company growth, the firm growth, is explained by the variables in our model. It also means that 67% 0.6% of firm growth is explained by other things, such as the unique features, products, and services of the company. So our model explains 32%. And there are 13 variables. The variables include innovation, age, tenure, CEO duality, CEO MBA qualification, whether they're a foreign CEO, female, the number of employees, and we found a very significant relationship between the beginning number of employees and the growth of the firm, which is very typical around the world, that smaller companies, smaller businesses tend to grow faster than bigger companies. We also included GDP growth and industry growth for each specific industry of each responding company. Now, what we found is actually not many of our variables are actually important. In fact, the only test in the full model, the only variable that we found that was significant, but it was very significant at a 1% level of significance, is explorative innovation. So that is the one variable that we found across these companies in Cambodia to be significantly associated with faster firm growth. And everything else did not matter. Exploitative innovation didn't make a difference in the growth. CEO age, tenure, duality, MBA didn't make a difference in the growth. Only one variable made a difference. However, when we looked at the indirect effect, we found that tenure, CEO tenure, actually had a significant, when we excluded CEO age, CEO tenure had a significant negative effect on growth of the firm. But when we include age and tenure together, there was no significant effect. But when we removed age, we see that tenure, that means CEOs who are in the longer a CEO stays in their position, we observe slower growth. And then lastly, we found a significant negative impact of foreign CEOs. And that is an indirect effect by reducing explorative innovation. We found that foreign CEOs here in Cambodia, they are associated with slower growth. And the reason that the foreign CEOs have slower growth is that they are innovating less. They have less explorative innovation. So what does this mean to us? Well, we have our one significant variable that we have confidence is associated with faster growth of business in Cambodia, which is explorative innovation. So clearly the recommendation to us is to spend more time with explorative innovation and that means getting out, meeting new stakeholders, meeting new partners, meeting external stakeholders, developing new products, entering new markets. And we should spend less time with operations and process improvement. Operations and process improvement is important, but it can be delegated to our employees, and it can be something that we spend less time on. And for the explorative innovation, the coefficient is 0.005. And what that means is for every 1 point increase in explorative innovation, we have a 0.5% increase in firm growth. Now, what do we do with the older, longer tenured CEOs? Because we saw that there was a negative association between tenure and firm growth. Well, we shouldn't do anything. So we shouldn't fire our older CEO. We shouldn't necessarily not hire an older CEO. The reason is that we don't know why the older or longer tenure CEOs have lower firm growth. So it would be inappropriate for us to take action if we don't know why. And in fact, the lower growth of an older CEO, there might be a good reason for that growth. Perhaps the older CEO may be growing more slowly, but it might be growing more stably. So it might be a stable, risk-averse growth under an older CEO. So it doesn't mean, and for an investor, you want to balance the risk of growing and the safety of a stable investment. So depending on what you are aiming to achieve with your investment, an older, longer tenure CEO could possibly be appropriate for your business. So we can't yet do anything about this with this knowledge. We need to wait for additional future research. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of my presentation. I would like to invite anyone to ask any questions.
Hi, Tracy. Muni is speaking.
Hi, Moni.
Thanks for the finding and good presentation around that. Basically, some finding that you have seen quite valid. For instance, is CEOs spend a lot of times in operation in lack of times for innovation and engage with external stakeholder. However, most of these underlying reason because probably the scale of the company that they are not able to put up their relevant function heads to a certain level that are able to independently run their own function, allow CEO to do much more. That's my hypothesis reasons from a scale perspective. But upon your research, are you finding something familiar? That's one question. Second question is go around how you already finding some in terms of older age CEO are performing lesser growth and foreign CEO are also for some instance lesser growth. But are they linked to underlying short-term 1 year, 2 year KPIs because of their next year pockets bonus and the following year pocket bonus rather than putting into a longer term company perspective for stability and continue to be in a growth stage rather than stagnant in a maturity stage? Yeah.
Thank you. I love that comment, and you're absolutely correct. So what would be ideal is if we can conduct this kind of research over a longer period of time, because as you're saying, if you have a new CEO, a younger CEO who is taking a lot of risks to grow quickly, well, those risks also might result in a failure of the company, bankruptcy, they close down. Whereas an older CEO or one with longer tenure, they may be more prudent, more cautious, but they have a greater chance of surviving. So it would be helpful to conduct such research over a longer period of time. And so your comments are very much appreciated. Dorit, you have a question?
Yes, Kathy, thank you. I appreciate for the insights and the comprehensive research that you have done. I have a quick question. Very interested on the how the firm growth that basically drive by CEOs. So based on the research, have you noted somewhere? Is it a trend of the CEO based on the qualifications, masters or professional qualifications or relevant experience? What drivers that drive the growth from the leadership of the CEO? Is that the experience or is it qualification or what? What are the key drivers for growth based on various industry? Thank you.
Dorit, that's an excellent question. And today we see that innovation is driving growth, but what is driving the CEO to innovate? So you're asking, is it the experience? Is it education? So we included MBA education, and we found that no. In fact, in many of the analyses I conducted, there was actually a slightly significant negative relationship between the MBA qualification and performance. So what we can say is that an MBA education will not help a CEO perform better. And is it experience? Well, we see that if tenure or age is reflecting experience, we see that also there doesn't seem to be a positive relationship with experience either. So then what is it? Well, it's still a mystery. One kind of clue that I found in my various analyses is I didn't include in the research, but I looked at the ACCA qualification because we had a number of professional firms responding, and those many had ACCA qualifications. And I did see a positive, significant relationship between the ACCA qualification and innovation and performance. And I think that with ACCA, it's an exam-based qualification, which has a strict standard, and it may reflect the general intelligence of the CEO. Whereas an MBA, you don't have that strict control or strict standard. MBA from one school to another is quite different. So the intelligence and the personal qualities of the CEO might hold much of the secret to leading innovation. Sinra, please.
Hi, Casey, good afternoon. Thanks for the presentation and interpretation on the result of the surveys. So I just want to understand from you, because I saw in the result of the survey, I saw that the foreign CEO tend to lead the company to the slow growth and less innovations. Is it because of the foreign CEO running business in Cambodia, they don't fully understand about the context locally, or is it probably because of the those foreign CEO, they have to lead the big local company, and then the control might not be given enough to them? Yeah, that's all.
Yes,
I
great
want
question. Now, it is unlikely to be due to the size, because we included size of the firm as a control variable. So we wouldn't say that the foreign CEO is doing growing a little slower because they have a bigger company, because we did control for that, and we don't see that. Also, is it due to power? We did control somewhat for power by asking if they are also the chairman. But you might be correct about the power, because if the foreign CEO is a CEO that is a subsidiary of a foreign company, then you're right. They will have less ability to make changes, because a lot of the changes will be controlled by the parent company. So that might explain part of it. And also part of it may be the as you say, a cultural awareness. They simply, because they're separated from the greater community by language, by culture, by experience, it makes it difficult for them to recognize an opportunity, whereas a Cambodian CEO might recognize the opportunity faster and will be faster to understand when something is important. It also might be the short-termism. So a foreign CEO in Cambodia, they may not expect to live in Cambodia. They might expect to be in Cambodia for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. And so if someone is going to be in Cambodia as a manager for 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years, they might not want to take any risks. They might want to take it easy. Don't do anything dramatic, and just take their time until they are transferred to another office. So these are some potential explanations. Raxmai?
Hi, Casey. I would like to look at the statistic, the number of items that used in the survey to derive to the result of regression. Can you move back a bit the previous slide? The previous one. The numbers, yeah, this one. Next, the number of items that you use is from the innovation. Yeah, this one. If we look at the explorative innovation and exploitative innovation, the number of items is different. Is there any effect on the result of the analysis?
Sure. No, there's no difference. These are measures, and explorative innovation, basically we take the answer to question 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we add them together. For our study, we left out number 1 because among our sample, number 1 was not associated with the other items here. So we took questions, the answer to questions 2, 3, 4, 5, we added them together to get a score. Actually, we didn't add them together, we took an average. And then for exploitative innovation, we took the score for question 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. And again, we calculated an average. Now, these questions and these scores, they are not invented by me. These are actually internationally used measures for innovation that have been used by many researchers in many other countries. And they've found them to be a valid measure of innovation. So they're not scores or questions that actually I created. I took the international measure and carried it out in my survey here in Cambodia.